All right. Hi, everyone. We are back with another Sales Stage episode. This week, we have the wonderful Tyler Lessard. He is our Chief Video Strategist and VP of Marketing here at Vidyard. And he is going to be giving us some insight into the process of writing his incredible book, The Visual Sale, and how that went down for him. And he's also going to be talking about the incredible kind of insight he has into what sales teams are working on, what they're focused on, because he works with so many sales teams. And so we're really excited to dig into that with Tyler Lessard, and you won't want to miss it.
Oh, we're selling all the products and we're telling prospects what we got, yeah, we're selling. The next phase, we'll use lots of buzzwords. It's the next big craze. Jimmy and Rava Show, welcome to the sales stage. Sales stage. Hey everybody, welcome back to the sales stage. Hopefully you guys got a chance to tune into our last episode with Tori Taylor, talking all things presentations, talking about some of the things that maybe were cringeworthy in watching sales reps develop their pitch and then present their pitch. And there's actually, I know both Rave and I learned a boatload from that. And Tori did a great job of explaining some of the common pitfalls and really how to start looking at presentations to deliver the top-notch presentation. That said, we have something this week that I think is going to blow the socks off of all 12 of our listeners. And without further ado, I want them, because I don't even think we've told him, but he's got to introduce himself in the third person, the legend himself. I'm going to let him introduce himself before we get into it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, on this week of Sales Stage, the one and only Tyler Lessard, Chief Video Strategist and VP Marketing at Vidyard, better known to all of you out there in the world as the co-author of The Visual Sale. So ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the video guy, Tyler Lessard.
There, if we're talking about presentations, this is a great episode to follow up Tori's tips, because king of presentations is Tyler Lessard.
King of presentations. Like, this guy can do it all. This is the first time on the show I've truly been nervous. I'm nervous talking to him. I don't want to say the wrong thing.
I mean, I didn't want to call out the fact that you dressed up like me today too, Jimmy. And so this is, might be a little bit awkward, but yeah. I think you got this. I think we're good.
Yeah, it was a weird choice, Jimmy, that you decided to dress like Tyler, but I'm going to let it.
Don't let it slide. It's a strategy. Tyler knows all about the strategy. You basically try and mirror your audience. And I mean, I think I did an all right job of that. I even shaved slightly.
There we go, slightly.
So perfect. I'm excited to get into it. And there's a lot of things to talk about. And the first part, I know you brought in the book. So I wanted to talk about your book, that you wrote. Because I've got mine has an autograph, which is awesome. But I think what would be super exciting that's not even the right book. Sorry.
That's the right one for you, Jimmy. Actually, that is the right one for you. Be clear.
It is. It's no surprise why I have that, right? Right. But I think it would be really interesting for the audience, and this won't necessarily be the bulk of the show, because we want to talk about virtual trends in the marketplace with regards to sales and some of the trends in going virtual. But I think it would be really neat, because this is a unique experience. Not everyone that we talk to on our show have written a book. And so I wanted to understand maybe from you, what was that experience like, and maybe start with what the motivation was in behind it. Is it something you've been thinking about for a while? Is it something that just kind of came up? Maybe walk us through that.
Yeah, I would love to. So it is something that had been on my mind for a number of years. I get to spend a lot of my time here in my life at Vidyard working with businesses, working with consultants, working with analysts, and just being immersed in this world of video in marketing and sales. And I've, learned that, I mean, it's a great opportunity. Like, I don't shrug that off of the fact I get to spend time seeing what people are doing, learning what's working, learning what's not, and then to bring those ideas and that knowledge back out to others to help them learn. And so a lot of what I've been doing traditionally have been presentations, being on shows almost as amazing as Sales Stage, being on podcasts, getting out there and sharing these ideas. And it has certainly always been on my mind of, can I produce an amazing Hollywood film or write a book about all the things that I've had a chance to learn from businesses and individuals out there in the world of video. So the opportunity came when my good friend Marcus Sheridan, who is the author of the book They Ask You Answer, actually approached me a couple of years ago to see if I'd be interested in co-authoring a book on video, because he's had some amazing experiences working with sales teams on how it is that they're embracing video. And on my side, I've worked with a myriad of marketing teams as well as sellers. So we said, you know what, now's the time. Let's do it. Let's put our heads together and put something out there. So it was a really great experience that was actually a couple of years in the making. It didn't just happen overnight.
That's so funny awesome too, because like it took a couple of years, but for the book to come out right now in the midst of everything is like the perfect timing for people to be reading this type of content.
Well, if you take, I'll just hold it up here again as a shameless self-promotion. The Visual Sale, How to Use Video to Explode Sales, Drive Marketing, and Grow Your Business. That was the original title. And after the pandemic hit, we added In a Virtual World because, of course, it was very timely of what had happened. So what was interesting was we had actually written the book and we're ready to launch it in March of 2020. Now, for posterity, for those of you watching this 10 years in the future, March 2020 was a very interesting time in which the world entered more or less a complete lockdown, and we were no longer able to travel to events, to go through airports. And those were a couple of places where a lot of business books actually get distributed and sold. So we actually paused for a moment, and we actually used it as an opportunity to say, hey, the world is actually changing for video and marketing and sales. So we spent a few months actually updating the book to bring in elements of this new world of virtual selling, the rise of virtual events and webinars, and brought a lot of those learnings into the book, and then ended up releasing it in October of 2020. So it was actually really great that we had a chance to almost refresh it just before it hit the shelves and bring in some of these new ideas.
For sure. And it's super relevant, right? And as they say, I think they say it in marketing, it's timing's everything, right? So I'm sure this book has helped a number of people, and I've grazed through it. I won't lie and tell you I've read the whole thing, but I've grazed through certain chapters, and I think there's extremely relevant content for everyone, right? Across an organization, not just necessarily sales or marketing, right? There's some really cool tips in there that I think just help communication overall. Just on the note, because this is more sort of my own curiosity, like what is the process like in doing that? Like, so you mentioned this has been in the works for 2 years. Like, who are some of the folks that you had to work with? For myself, my grammar is, I would say, like average at best, right?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, exactly. So like, who are some of the people that you needed to work with, and like, what is high level? What does that process look like?
Yeah, it was actually really interesting to go through because I am not a traditionally trained writer. I did not come from an English or literature background. I'm an engineer who turned marketer. So like if anybody shouldn't write a book, it's me. But what I found during the process was, I had a lot of ideas, a lot of stories to put out there. And I took my first shot at writing this out. And of course, you spend a lot of time structuring it ahead of time. Like anything, you measure twice, cut once. And so there was a lot of prep work in the beginning of what is the right structure for the content? What's the right overall narrative? What stories fit at different places? Because a lot of the book is, of course, very educational. It's very tactical with how do you use video here? What do you do here? What's the best practice? But it's also interlaced with a lot of stories of real people, real marketers, real sellers that have seen success. So it was really interesting to go through and structure all those ideas in an overall narrative. But then when it was time to put the figurative pen to paper, I did a lot of the writing myself, but then thank goodness I worked with a professional editor who helped me turn what I realized was also terrible, let's say slightly below average grammar, and ability to articulate my ideas. And she was absolutely fantastic. So, I opened up the doc and it was just red lines everywhere. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what have I done? And then as you go through it and you're like, oh, that's a way better way to say it, and like, oh yeah, that sentence was way too long. And she was fantastic at, bringing the stories to life. But also really interesting was getting out of my own head. Because in a lot of cases, she'd be like, this probably makes sense to you, but I have no idea what you're trying to say here. Right. And I'm like, oh, I'm trying to say this. She's like, okay, well, let's say it like that. And so she was really good at helping bring it into plain English in a way that other people could really approach it.
That's really interesting. I feel like, yeah, if you pick up a book and it reads awkward, or it's really tough to get through, or it's not organized in like a cohesive way, like no one's going to read it. So I think I would hate to be an editor, but thank God for editors.
Yeah. I mean, we should have editors. Here's an idea for everybody out there. We should have professional copywriters and editors look at our sales cadences, look at our sales templates. We do it in marketing, right? Like we have copywriters and editors that tend to be a core part of marketing teams that are doing web copy and things like that. But I wonder, if you had a professional editor who worked continuously with your sales team to not only your written content, but, to help you with your video scripts, to help you with your presentations. There you go, folks. Maybe that's your next sales hire.
Sales copywriter, editor in chief.
Yeah. So wise.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know about, so like this past year, you and I have worked together. You've been working with the sales org quite a bit on this really fun engagement, I think, about getting involved in these virtual sales kickoffs for sales teams.
Yeah.
And because, what, like one of the best things about being on a sales team is the sales kickoff, getting together like somewhere and getting so excited about the year ahead, talking about how well we did last year and what's up. Like, and so to do that virtually is so tough. It takes like one of the best parts away from it. But I really love, the idea that you had around, for teams that are really looking to step it up virtually, talking about video and getting them excited about something new. But you've probably been talking to a lot of sales teams to get those engagements going. Can you tell us a bit about like what you're hearing from these sales teams, what else they're focusing on now that we're all virtual?
I got to tell you, it's been super interesting. So for more context, over the last 2 months, over the course of January and February, I've participated in, it's about 25 different sales kickoffs for different businesses. And again, the idea there was many of them are helping their sales reps start to learn how to do video better now that we're all in this virtual sales world, both, live video calls, but also using tools like a Vidyard or others to record and send custom videos. And it's new for most salespeople today. So we use this as an opportunity to say, hey, happy to come and speak for an hour to get your team, educated and excited about what it can mean to really embrace video. So it's been really eye-opening though to see the kinds of organizations that are starting to do this, but to your point, the broader themes of what they're talking about this year. And I think across the board, whether it's folks in B2B tech, insurance, real estate, I've done ones with other areas of finance, transportation companies, it's all over the board, but they're all, not surprisingly, really anchoring around this virtual selling and what does it mean for us to truly sell in this new virtual world. And a lot of that is, some of it's coming from the world of B2B tech, where a lot of us have already been virtual, but now our buyers are also virtual and it changes dynamics. But the more interesting has been a lot of these companies that traditionally had field sales teams, folks that, have always been out there in person meeting and greeting, and they're now trying to adapt to this. And some of us in tech, we take it for granted. We've used Zoom for years, right? This is part of the way we do things. But for a lot of these folks out there, this is all new. And, they're trying to figure out in a world where it was all about the relationship and all about the in-person meetings to drive consensus. How do we adapt to that? And what's the role of video calls? What's the role of video? How do our sales teams even collaborate amongst themselves when everybody's, sort of in their own little bubbles? So there's all these things happening, but that whole overall idea of virtual selling, how can we all be better at it? How can we embrace it? Has been the theme across the board for most kickoffs I've been at.
Yeah, I love that. I love hearing that. I mean, because the neat thing for you, right, is like you said, you're doing sales kickoffs for a number of different verticals, right? Mm-hmm. So their go-to-market is obviously completely different. right? And it's neat to see that they're kind of rallying around this and adopting, you know, this technology, whether it's Vidyard as, you know, a competitor, Zoom, a competitor of Zoom, right? So it's neat to see that they're all kind of rallying around this and really trying to learn the new way of doing things when you can't be in person. I'd be curious too, because I know you speak to a ton of teams. You know, you've got a fabulous network of people. You know, what are some of the other major trends that you're seeing? So let's, you know, slightly take video aside. What are some of the other major trends that you're hearing, you know, in the conversations you're having?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time in the world of prospecting as part of my life and thinking about that area of sales. And so that's one part I'll talk about, and then we can talk about others. But in the world of prospecting, which you have account executives doing, but also dedicated sales development reps, business development reps at different companies that's all they do. In the world of prospecting, the real theme for seemingly everybody right now is this like hyper personalization and personalization in ways that are efficient. How can we stand out and connect with people in ways that are, you know, the right message, the right time, that's relevant to them, that makes them feel and know that, hey, we put in the effort here to learn who you are. But to do that in a way where I don't have to spend 8 hours researching one lead and trying to figure out, you know, oh, what kind of dog do they have? So I can go out and buy the same dog and hold it up in a video or something like that, right? So it's a really interesting conversation going about how do we create these kind of personalized prospecting experiences and do them across channel in sort of an omni-channel way, leveraging email, phone, social, video, polls, direct mail, right? Like all these things we have at our disposal that we've never had before. How do we create these really immersive personal experiences? So that's been really interesting to see this evolution of how people are thinking about that, how it sort of, they build their own brands as sellers by connecting with people in these different ways. And then rethinking, how does this all work together? Because it's not just email and phone now, there's all these different things I can do to create a more personal experience. So lots of cool ideas that are bubbling in that part of the world. Yeah.
I find that really cool too, because coming from like leading a BDR team for a little bit, I think when I was a BDR 10 years ago, it was very black and white. You sat there, you called and you emailed, and it could get pretty boring. And so
here's your list, Reva. Here's your list.
Yeah, go for it. And so to have all these tools available, like if you really like being on video and you're creative, you can sort of over index on that. If you're really good on social and you're building a personal brand, or you like to engage on LinkedIn, or direct mail is your thing, like there's so many avenues now. And it's so nice to see teams incorporating like a multi-channel approach to this, so that it's not only effective because you're going to hit your buyer on some channel that they like, but it also keeps your reps engaged and like gives them the creative freedom to do what works for them and what they like get excited about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, and the cool thing is that a lot of people don't appreciate, but it flips your thinking a bit, is the reason this stuff is happening is not because we want to change the way we sell. It's because of the expectations of buyers today and the way that they interact with brands and with sellers and with the world, right? So, you know, they're not just sitting there waiting for somebody to email them an email message in their inbox, right? Like in different markets, people are consuming information, they're connecting in very different ways than they have in the past. And I know personally, when somebody reaches out to me, if they happen to get my attention, if they're that 1 in 100 that actually gets my attention, says something that might be of interest or shows me something that piques curiosity, the first thing I'll do, and I hear this from a lot of people, is I'll go check their LinkedIn profile to see, who is this person, right? Like, are they legit? Are they worthwhile, right? Like before I even respond, if they've already gotten my attention, at least, I'll probably do some really quick digging, and it doesn't take long, right? It's just like boom, boom, boom. Okay, I've suddenly built this mental profile of who is this person, who's this company, are they worth engaging with? And so all of those things come into this new sales process where you're like, okay, like how are we represented online? How does my brand look, right? If somebody quickly pings somebody else and go, hey, this person's in your network, do you know them? What do you think, right? What are they going to say? So all those things are like a part of sales today. It's almost like these community aspects of what we're doing and how we represent ourselves on digital. So I think it's really fascinating, and it's going to change the way that people think about how they connect in this digital world. And it's all part of this virtual selling theme, right? It's like we're in a virtual landscape, we're in a virtual playground now, and there's lots of ways to connect with people, lots of ways to represent ourselves. So all of those become important. It's really, really interesting.
Yes.
Jimmy, if I went to your LinkedIn profile, what do you think? Would I be wowed? Would I be like, I got to work with this guy because he is a trusted advisor in this space of sales and in video? What do you think?
I mean, I would say probably, yeah. I mean, it's, by design, when you look me up, like I just look like a fun loving, nice guy, someone that you want to talk to. You're going to have a good time talking with. You're probably going to learn a few things. I'm going to learn a few things. And at the end of it, we might be getting an apartment together because we're going to be best friends, right? So that's really the profile I'm going for. So, I mean,
I love it. You do, though. You come across very real, very genuine, like very trustworthy, like somebody who is, here to help and not here to sell. I think that's so important right now. And I think you do bleed that through. So kudos to you.
Well,
I agree.
I mean, not only the nicest guy, he's also humble. Because I was going to bring this up because I thought for sure in your profile, when you're going through and introducing yourself, you were going to bring up, I think it was, I got to get my dates right because our fiscal year always messes me up. I think it was 2018 and 2019 management retreat bump champion back-to-back years.
Yep.
For those that don't know, T3 as I call it, Tyler Lessard is an absolute machine on the basketball court. Like this guy has the moves, and I don't think anybody knows that. Like he is sick.
Wow, I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
But his height, I'm not surprised.
His height, his agility, and the soft touch that he has. You should see this guy do a layup. It's like poetry in motion. Anyway, okay. I'm going to stop pumping your tires.
No, don't stop, please. Please don't stop.
Tell me more.
The one question I did have too that I'm curious about, and I know that aside from basketball, one of your super strengths is not to see into the future. But I would love to kind of hear any predictions that you may have on additional trends that you're going to see that we should expect to see over the next 12, 24 months.
Yeah, you know what? I'll use this as a chance to talk about the other side of the sales process. Not just prospecting, but managing overall deal cycles and doing the real work of closing deals. You guys know about that. Is a really interesting thing that's happening in that world for account executives is this shift to and I'll give Jocko Vanderkooj and the team at Winning by Design a hat tip for this, is this notion of asynchronous selling, where in the old world, and in most cases in today's world still, as sellers, we tend to be really sort of linchpinned into the meetings. Like the meetings, it's a very meeting-centric sales culture, right? Like everything happens at the meeting, and we got to book the meeting, and during the meeting, we talk about all these things. And at the end of the meeting, what do? We book another meeting. And then we wait until that meeting happens. And at that meeting, all these things go on. And then if they cancel the meeting after we schedule the meeting, everything gets blown up and we're in a tizzy because we don't know what the heck to do, right? I feel like I'm on a Seinfeld episode. It's the meeting. We got the meeting, and the meeting. At the end of the meeting, we do the meeting. But in today's world where it's virtual and frankly, where people we're all in more and more, we're in different time zones, we're distributed environments. Even our coworkers aren't coming into the same meeting rooms with us. And we just expect things more and more to be on demand, right? We're in a Netflix culture, we're in a HBO culture. And more and more this idea of asynchronous selling, where you say, how do I remove the dependency on these big pillar meetings to move my deals forward? How do I continuously consult with my prospects to keep educating them on their own time, right? Sharing ideas with them. Instead of waiting for that big demo, why don't I go off and record a short custom demo about something I know they're really interested in, send it over so they can easily share it around with anybody who needs to see it. And they don't all have to get on that next big Zoom call because frankly, they're probably not all going to anyways, right? Yeah. How can I continue to drip feed information to curate their experience and also give them things they can consume and share offline? And it's hard for a lot of salespeople to get behind that because you feel like you lose control, right? Like the meeting is all about, I've got control here, I can do these things. And by like stepping back and almost giving up control and going, I'm going to give you these things. I can't wait to hear back and let me know what you think. Let me know what else I can share with you. It's hard, but I actually believe that it can give you actually more control over the buying process by empowering your buyer. And I think it's a really interesting idea of this asynchronous selling and moving away from so much dependency on the live meetings and even the live Zoom calls.
Mhm.
There's two things that I want that's sparked for me. The first one being, and I'm sure you've seen it too, it is the actual meetings themselves. Once you've been able to share that information and everyone has absorbed it, it allows for such better conversation. You know, the quality of questions that come out are so much better than having to in real time see how something is done and then trigger a question versus by the time you think of that, you know, now it's 3 days later, 4 days later. So the quality. So I love that
Right.
piece. And one other anecdote around that is like I know from a sales perspective, you know, sharing pricing historically was like, oh, we share pricing on pricing calls.
That's right.
Right. And we're seeing so many customers that are on board with creating a video walkthrough of a proposal.
Yep.
Because again, back to the quality piece, it's not like, hey, how do you feel about this price, Tyler? They've had time to go through it, understand. They ask very pointed, educated questions around things. So you know that's something I think like with your predictions, we're seeing that happen already, and I think it's just going to take off even more, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, there's an expectation of transparency in the market today, right? Like it's like when I'm on somebody's website as an example, and there's the same analogy when you're in a sales process. If, you know, I'm going through a vendor's website and, you know, they've got bullet points on like what they do. And then it's like, want to see it in action? Book a demo, right? And I'm like, for the love, just show me. Like, here we are in 2021, right? Like I can stream anything at a moment's notice, but I can't watch what your product looks like. You're forcing me to book time in somebody's calendar. They're like, oh, well, we need to customize the demo. It's like, yeah, I know at some point I want to customize to me, but I am absolutely certain there's a general walkthrough that I could watch on my own time that would give me a pretty good sense for what you really do, right? And so like I expect that as a buyer. Or pricing, you mentioned, right? Like we talk about this in the book, in the visual sale, like what is the most frequently visited page on most websites after their homepage? It's not the product page, it's their pricing page, right? And think about yourself as a consumer where you're going to learn about a vendor. You land on the homepage, you get a sense, okay, this is what they do. And then you're like, you know what, before I spend all sorts of time looking further, are they even in my ballpark, right? You click on the like pricing, let's see what, okay, let's go back now and learn, right? And that's like how we shop as consumers too.
Yeah.
Like Jimmy, when you were like picking out that shirt, you saw it on the rack and you were like, now this is going to make me look like a boss. But before I try on a size or whatnot, let's check that price tag here. Make sure it's even in your mind. And you're like, ooh, that's a good deal, right? And now you're going to talk, one. Right. And now you're going to talk to the salesperson. Yeah, you got me one.
Yeah.
So anyways, those sorts of things are like, I think just how we expect to buy now. And in the sales process, I think we have to be more confident and intentional in giving that kind of information to our prospects and empowering them with it and getting ahead of objections. And that can often shorten cycles because they're continuously educated and they're like, yep, okay, I've got it. Let's keep moving forward, not waiting for the big meeting.
Well, I think
the big meetings is sometimes you get on those big meetings and you notice that half the people in the room are not engaged, and that's not their fault necessarily, but I feel like we're all triple booked right now and we're all thinking about the outcomes of the last meeting, or we checked our email and some fire drill was in our email. Now we've got to get on this hour-long demo with this vendor. If you can asynchronously drip information to them and they can watch a 5-minute video or something like that, chances are if they've got 5 minutes, they're going to zone in. They're going to take a lot of that out versus an hour-long Zoom call where you might see people kind of fading in and out. So the quality of attention is different too asynchronously.
Yeah. We got to do both. I'm not going to say that you shouldn't be doing the live.
So meeting. No more meetings. Absolutely. Is this the takeaway? No more live meetings.
Don't even Yeah, don't even look them in the eye anymore. Turn off your cameras. No, yeah, we still absolutely need to do those live meetings, but I think we underestimate how much we can do between those. And like you said, like I know a friend of mine, Thomas Buchanan, he's a great sales rep at a company called Modus, and he's adopted this model where throughout his process, he will intentionally record these short videos for different people in his target accounts. And he'll either send them directly or he'll send them to his champion to forward along, intentionally knowing that these other people may or may not ever get on a live call. They may not ever meet me. But if I can get them to watch a short video where I've explained to them how I can help them in their role, they'll have a chance to meet me, right? They'll watch my video, they'll see me, they'll get quickly educated. And when it comes time for them to go like, hey, are you on board and participate in the sign off, right? They're already there and they remember that, whether or not they ever got on that live call. So it's this really interesting idea. And I think more and more sales in many cases is going to go that way. Sorry, Jimmy, didn't mean to cut you off there.
No problem at all. I quite enjoyed where we were going with that. I think the piece I was going to bring up was, I think your example with regards to like the demo video, I think what we also have to think about is like most people don't watch a demo because they want to know exactly how the product works. They have an inkling. I think this is going to do what I think it does. I just need to validate that I'm on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what ends up happening if you don't enable them to be able to do that or empower them to be able to do that, they do come inbound. They have a conversation with, a business development rep or an AE, right? And then you hear the argument, wow, the leads are no good, Tyler, right? And you're like, well, we're feeding these leads, right? But part of that is, we didn't do a good enough job of showcasing what our tool is doing, right? And we kind of have those blinders on. So I love that point as well.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, do you think it's time to get into our Would You Rather segment, Jimmy?
I think now is never been a better time.
We've got the go ahead from Tyler, I think, is what I said. These are the most difficult parts of these episodes, Tyler.
They're going to require you to think on the spot, and quite frankly, again, just like I forget what our last segment was, very thought-provoking. Actually, in reading through these, they're probably not even like would you rather, they're like yes no questions. But hey, at any rate, the show must go on. So maybe Reva, we'll just kind of like go back and forth. Why don't you, or do you want me to take the first one, or do you want to take the first one?
I'll take the first one. Okay, so here we go. Would you rather, Tyler, let me just move this aside a bit. Let sales have full creative control on pitch decks, or ride shotgun with no seatbelt with Michael Litt?
Oh, definitely let sales teams have full creative control over pitch decks. Because I know that'll just come right back anyways after, a couple of days, and they'll be like, no, never mind, back over to you guys. So
you can't do this.
Yeah, that's the safe bet. Yeah, shotgun, no seatbelt with Michael Litt. Let's not even talk about, Answer number one.
Perfect. I figured that would be the answer. You talked about being, getting prospected, and I can only imagine, what your inbox looks like. Would you rather get an unsolicited prospecting text to your cell phone, or walk around for 1 month with a 40-pound rock in a backpack?
Ooh, yeah, totally. I'm all in on the rock in the backpack. Yeah, 100%.
No text.
100%. Yeah, that would be much less painful than getting a text. Have you guys ever FaceTimed a prospect, like as a cold prospecting technique?
No.
Maybe, but it was probably by accident because I've got fat fingers. So I'm try and call them, and then it's like FaceTime. I'm like, hey.
Has that happened to you, Tyler?
Not yet, but I know it's going to. And that's the time when I'm going to be like the 100-pound rock is coming with me.
Just give me that rock. Okay, next one. Would you rather be an incredible local musician or receive $10 Amazon gift cards each week for the rest of your life?
I'm going to go with a local. Can I be a break dancer instead of a musician? Would that work?
Every community needs their local break dancer. Yeah.
I'm going to go with that. That's way more fun. Yeah.
And I would actually say, I forget what the laneway is called, right outside of your office with those Gowdy's Lane, right outside of the office, for you to lay some cardboard down there. You've got that sick backdrop of all the graffiti in the background. I can see, we should talk to Blake. We should talk to Blake because I think there's a pump up video that's going to come out from this.
Done. I'm a giver, and anything I can do to entertain others, put a smile on their face, that's what I'm about. So I'm going to break dance over being a selfish Amazon Amazon purchaser.
Perfect. The next one. This one should be an easy one.
Would you rather give up question?
Yeah. Would you rather give up coffee or give up bread?
Bread. Yeah.
I can't answer that one.
Oh, hold on a second here.
Yeah. How you've got to be in great shape.
Why, you got coffee for me?
You've got to be in great shape and shredded to be able to break dance. So I can completely understand your answer. So.
Yeah, I'm a big coffee fan.
Well, with 4 kids, is it 4 kids, Tyler? And
4 kids, the breakdancing career, you need the energy.
You need coffee.
Working with you guys, you need something to
to stomach it all.
Cup of ambition, baby.
Okay, here's the last would you rather. Would you rather be able to do incredible card tricks or steal watches with, is it sleight of hand? Like they do in the movies.
Yeah.
As mentioned, my grammar not excellent. So
yeah.
Continue.
Are you suggesting that I can't do both of those already? Jimmy, take a look at your wrist.
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I'll be here all week.
That is wonderful. What a note to end on. Jimmy no longer has his watch. I'm pretty sure it was a Rolex and now it's gone.
It was a Rolex Indiglo. I mean, Timex Indiglo.
Timex,
Rolex.
Right. Not Rolex, Timex. We've got it right. Yeah. Okay, well, this was awesome. I loved having Tyler on. I'm so glad you joined us and gave us a little insight into the book writing process. I highly recommend taking a look at the visual sale, especially now for sales teams. And it was also really nice chatting about what sales teams are focused on right now. You have such a unique opportunity to be working with so many sales teams, and I love to hear what other teams are working on at different companies. So it's been awesome, and we really appreciate you joining us, Tyler.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Always nice to chat with you guys.
All right. Until next time.